why nobody wants to talk about we're in a second depression yet is thoroughly beyond me. I just don't understand. I mean, it's like one of the FCC's dirty words you're not supposed to say on radio. They have the 8 words. There's the F word and the C word, and but it's like the D word is something that won't happen on mainstream media. And the only guy I think I've heard say it on any of the Money Honey channels is Jim Rogers, the commodity trader, because he gets it. I mean, the number of people who get it can probably all fit inside of a small stadium.
Mm.
The number of people who don't get it fill up the malls of America every weekend before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were asking me on the break about my one of the reasons my outlook is not just a little pessimistic, it's terribly pessimistic for 2009's economy, is simply this. The Financial Times of London had an article recently about how American employers feared the possibility that we would hit 1 million layoffs a month. Now, the problem with 1 million layoffs per month is that there are 2 kinds of jobs in the world. There are primary production jobs, and then there's services, which is everything else. And essentially for every 1 person on the production line at Painfield and Everett making 747s for Boeing, that will create in the Pacific Northwest economy somewhere between 4 and 5 service jobs. And the service jobs are going to be the guys who are down unloading containers at Terminal 5 in Seattle, or the guys in telecommunications who work for Verizon that make sure that primary production worker has a cell phone, and then there's the Ford dealership or the Toyota dealership and the Safeway and QFC up in that part of the woods and so forth, right? So so you've got primary jobs, and then you've got secondary jobs or tertiary jobs. And of course, once you've got a primary worker and a service worker, now you need more government services. So then you have teachers, and you've got social services like police and fire, and that's how the economy is all working, at least is supposed to be working. But now along comes, let's take the Financial Times headline, 1 million people a month being laid off, and we lost 500 and how many thousand? I think it was 543,000 in November's report. That means that come January, February, we could easily get to 1 million a month. But the problem is that portends in what Cliff's work says will be the summer from hell. That portends the ripple effect of 3, 4, 5 million per month being laid off as we head up to that incredibly high unemployment rate that accompanies major economic depressions. And in the 1930s, the unemployment rate in many big cities was in the 25-30% range. But the difference, or the fly in the ointment now, is that since everybody has to work in order to make ends meet, the old style of accounting, which did not include working women, working teenagers, and so forth, it just basically counted working males, 21 to 65, that number is likely to be, the unemployment rate is likely to be nearly twice as high this time. I mean, if we continue using the same statistical methodology today, and were to account for things honestly, not fudging by taking out discouraged workers, and not fudging the numbers by discounting workers who were unable to find employment and so forth. And by the way, you do understand that one of the reasons the Republicans and the greedy old party was so dead set against extension of unemployment benefits was that instead of having people unemployed for 26 weeks, statistically they would become unemployed for 52, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their numbers that they'd put up before the voters from the nominally honest numbers reported by BLS would therefore be skewed. Oh, it's a crooked mess out there. Oh.
Yeah, freaking mess. That's very true.
So ask me, what's the answer?
Okay, what's the answer?
Live
Is this going to be another joke?
No. I mean, that really the answer is live on $10,000 a year. And Cliff and I are working on something called Boggs Life, which is beyond organization and government structures. I mean, at some point, the hippies were right in the 60s and 70s. They were right in this sense. They were all about checking out of the system.
Right.
And guess what? The system seems to be coming crashing down around us in many ways. And I'm not being negative about it. I'm just looking at folks I know who are our age, who have been working for a few years and are trying to put together a 401k. They got a little money ahead, started dreaming about buying the big pusher diesel coach, paying off their house, moving to something a little smaller, and spending the rest of their life touring around America, looking at the sites, going to Branson, Missouri, drive over to Las Vegas, do a little gambling, get down to Southern California, do some, beach bumming, and it sounds great, but it ain't gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it's not gonna happen is the 401ks, generally speaking, are collapsing. And once the tide turns, once the first couple of people have sensed smoke in theater, run for exit, and that's where we are. And we're just now at the beginning of a few folks are going to start smelling the smoke, or a few more will start smelling the smoke when they start getting their how your 401k, the confessional that gets mailed out once a quarter. And when those things start coming out in January or early part of February, I think you're going to see tremendous mental attitude shift on the part of the American electorate, especially because the Obama administration doesn't seem to be doing a hell of a lot of changing of change. It's one thing to talk change, but then to bring in somebody who's a, standard straight line party wheeler dealer to be your chief of staff, and then to bring in Hillary Clinton, who, has been around the White House for how long, and it just doesn't sound to me like there's a heck of a lot of change coming. It sounds rather more like we're digging in to defend the same old paradigm, and maybe if we can get the banksters to lower the interest rates to zero, we can run her up one more time, while all the fat cats continue building their places in Vail so they have bug-out locations. And meantime, the American working class is getting screwed to the wall. But they're going to shut us up by sending us another round of hush money in the form of a tax break. And I don't know if you've done your taxes yet, but if you got your tax rebate last year, then you're going to have to own up to that, and you'll get $1,000 or $600 or $1,200 or whatever you got less. Because you won't get that, you'll be nicked for that tax credit when you do your taxes in April. Of course, I'm already doing mine because I don't want to be snuck up on by a big ugly check.
Who would you like to see in that cabinet instead? Who would you think would be going in the correct direction?
I don't mean to sound like a left-winger, but Noam Chomsky or somebody who can take who's a reasonably good thinker, who's open to a wider range of possibilities, would maybe make a better choice, or somebody like a Colin Powell, somebody who's not even Lee. I'll tell you who'd be great, Lee Iacocca.
Yeah.
Because it'd be no nonsense. It would not be. I don't want somebody in as our Secretary of State who's out running a political agenda. I want people who are core, competent, able to execute a policy. I want to have some good discussion of policy, come up with a good plan, and so somebody like Iacocca seems to me like a very good choice. And for almost any of the cabinet level positions, I think there are better qualified people than what have been put forward. But again, the Obama administration has to color inside the lines, I guess, and not make too much change too quickly. But on the other side of it, if we don't get enough change fast enough, we're all toast anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the real question becomes, okay, you're president, you're in a depression, although no one's articulating it. And I don't mean to sound negative about it, but the numbers, just the Wall Street losses, you realize that less than about a year ago, the stock market was at 14,000. We've been down to the 7,600 range in the last month or two, and we're probably going to bump up to, 9,600. Then we're going to either 7,200 or 5,800 on the Dow. Then we're going to get maybe 6 months of run back up to 10,000, and then likely we'll be at a Dow of 1,000 before the end of the Obama administration. And that's when people will have only, 8% of their once all-time high 401k numbers. Now, that's a pretty ugly thing to look forward to. But that's in terms of long-wave economics, some basic big-picture Elliott wave, and looking at sort of how the deck is stacked. That's not an unreasonable outlook for the coming few years.
Well, that's why, just like for earthquakes that may or may not happen, as you put it, too much preparation is better than none at all. So, and I think that time is growing very short for any preparation.
This is our hour here.
Okay.
Are we out of time already?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to tell you how to do your family unemployment rate or your family cost of housing rate or watch your neighbor's new toy.
Okay, we'll do that next time.
Next time.
Go build your antenna.
Oh, my new CCD antenna.
We know you can't wait.
I can hardly wait is right.
Thank you, George.
Oh, you kids have fun.
Okay.
And thanks for listening.